Okay, no intros like usual because I don't like boring you guys with that. I don't like boring myself with them. Point of view manifesting. So I don't know if this is actually talked about on other channels. I've stopped watching a lot of manifesting things and just started doing a little bit more. Maybe I'm regurgitating information. I don't know. Point of view manifesting, or what I'm gonna call visual rehearsal, is a technique that I accidentally used that I realized was working and then started intentionally putting into certain days of the week for me that I have a little bit more free to manifest new situations. So kind of what it sounds like, right? You know, you have your first person point of view in writing, or your universal point of view, your third person point of view, all of that. So with manifesting, if you have trouble with the imagination part, which I do not. I'm a Delulu is the Salulu. I'm one of those people. But if you have trouble with imagination, or you want to take your imagination to the next level, put yourself in the rehearsal of the situation. So a lot of people try to do this during meditation or with scripting or something. But if you actually place yourself there, in the 3D, then you can manifest it. Now, what do I mean by that? Because, you know, if you could manifest it, you'd already be there. You wouldn't have to place yourself there. So when I call it visual rehearsal or first person point of view manifesting technique, what I mean by that is you go and do something that is similar to what you're trying to manifest. For example, if you want to manifest a particular type of house, or you know you want to be a millionaire one day, or you're in the market for an expensive home, whatever, but maybe you don't know the style that you want, or you know, just something monetary related, or a particular house. Go tour houses. Maybe you're not going to buy one right now. Maybe you don't know what kind of house you want to buy. Maybe you can't come up with a visual representation of what you want the interior to look like. Start touring homes and actually walk through the homes, and then now you have a mental picture in your mind that is a lot stronger than trying to conceptualize it through words or writing or speaking or meditation. You've already put an image in your head of what that is like. For example, when I am manifesting great wealth for selfish and unselfish reasons, but I am manifesting great wealth. And I won't get into the details, but I worked an acro gig in a $4 million home, and this is when this idea clicked for me. It was a charity for some kind of organization. I don't quite remember off the top of my head, but it was a charity, and they ran it out of a $4 million model home. So not only was the home very expensive on the exterior, it was a model home, so it was set up absolutely pristine on the interior as well. And I worked this gig, and one of the directors who was working the gig with me came up to me after, because typically in these situations, they'll invite you to stay for the parties or the fundraisers or the New Year's Eve events, whatever it is. They'll invite you to stay, wear formal attire, and kind of join in on the party. So one, I was also there enjoying this upscale formal event. So that also helps when it comes to what a lot of people are calling the rich girl aesthetic, or the rich person aesthetic. And the director also came up to me saying, could you imagine living in a home like this? And, you know, I had my reservations. I said, well, if it's a model home, it's a little ostentatious. I would like to party in this house. I wouldn't want to live in this particular house. Whatever. We got into a whole conversation about it. But that's when it clicked for me that part of how you can visualize is by putting yourself in a similar situation, and it becomes a much stronger visualization and a much stronger live vision board, essentially. So when he said that, you know, I sat back in one of the chairs and I was sipping one of the cocktails, and I was overlooking the infinity pool, and I put myself in the mental situation as if it were my home. Now, I didn't go act a fool at the party or anything, but I just sat there in the chair sipping my drink, putting myself in the visual representation of, this is my home, this is my party, this is my furniture, whatever. And I kind of just basked in that for a little bit, right? And you can do this. That was a lucky situation that had nothing to do with what I was there for, because I was there for an acrobatics gig. But of course, you can do this in everyday situations. You know, if you know you want to be rich enough to buy name brand stuff. I'm not a big name brand person. I personally believe a lot of those organizations, when they get large enough, are very corrupt, but I do understand and respect the people who want to, you know, have the Lamborghini and have the Louis Vuitton and all that. So if that's your forte, go into a Louis Vuitton store. Don't go in there looking like a mess, but, you know, set yourself up right, and then walk into the Louis Vuitton store and browse and put yourself in the mental picture like you are somebody in there who can afford those things. Don't go in there acting a fool. Don't do that. But you can absolutely enjoy similar things to the types of futures you want to have. Or on occasion, if you can take yourself to a fancy restaurant, when you're at that fancy restaurant, say to yourself, okay, what if I could do this every single night? Doesn't mean you would if you're rich, but having the capability is what that richness and that abundance brings, is that I can do it, you know? So if you ever take yourself out to eat, take a minute when you're in that situation to bask in the sense of, what if this was my life every single day? And accessing that sort of vision board in your mind becomes a lot easier because you're already sitting in the situation that you want to manifest as a daily routine. Car shopping, you could do it with that. And then when it comes to non-material items, you know, if you want to manifest a specific person, maybe that starts with, you need to have better confidence with women or men. So put yourself in situations where you're practicing that sort of confidence, you know, even if that's not the particular person that you want to manifest, or maybe you just want to manifest a husband or a wife or whatever your thing is, and that's, you already know the person you're talking to, maybe you don't click chemistry wise or whatever, but you can put yourself in the practice of being confident and not being in your thinking conscious mind, just being in your body and enjoying a moment, because a lot of the time that is what attracts everything in manifesting, not just another person. If you want to attract love, a lot of people I know want to do it with romantic love. So say that, whether it's romantic love or not, say you want to attract more love, put yourself in situations where you're loved. Maybe it's not loved by a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or loved by, a lot of us are healing wounds, so maybe it's not being loved by the parent that you're hoping to reconcile a relationship with, but you're going to put yourself in a situation with your friends, with new people where you can share positive experiences, generosity with money, generosity with compliments when you're interacting with strangers. Put yourself in situations where you spark that feeling as a visual rehearsal. And this works for almost anything, but I would say it's particularly effective when it comes to manifesting lifestyle and manifesting things, which I believe is more spiritual than what we let ourselves on to believe, because financial stability and financial abundance is step one, which I'm going to talk about in another video, in order to free up that mental energy so you can focus on the things that are actually important. But I think visual rehearsal is a very strong tool, because you're putting yourself in a live production, essentially, of what you're going to be living. And looking at it in a picture, I don't think is quite as strong. Looking at it written as a script on paper, I don't think is quite as strong. And different methods work for everybody. But I think that this one in general is a very powerful tool, because I've realized that by accident I was using it, and then after this night that I described, I started using it on purpose, and certain things were clicking much faster, certain things were happening much faster, and it's just accessible, because a lot of the time what we have trouble with is feeling present in the manifestation, and this forces you to essentially be present because you're kind of already there, and it's kind of already manifested to a degree when you have similarities. This is also why once you manifest something the first time and you access the feeling even stronger, why it begins to gain momentum and things start happening faster and faster as well, because you are living in the present moment and the rehearsal at the same time. You are living in the present moment of the manifestation, and while you're living in that present moment, you're rehearsing for the next round of it, essentially. I call this the manifestation machine. It's loading the frame as you're living out the frame, so it keeps that constant re-upping of energy. Basically, it keeps the particles launching in the Higgs boson for my physics people, right? It keeps accelerating and circulating, so the experience comes more often. And that's why manifesting becomes effortless after a point, or manifesting gets bigger naturally or multiplies naturally, because energy naturally expands once you already access the feeling, because then it becomes easier to get back to. It's just like training a muscle, and this is why I tell people to be patient with it all the time. And this is essentially a way to get faster gains, if you want to look at it like diet and exercise, which the tools of manifesting are very similar to, by the way. This would essentially be like upping your protein content for your muscle gains, if you can POV or visually rehearse where you're going to be, or what you want to do, or what you want to have.